Speaking of commodities, Bruce McLeod is the president and CEO of Sabrina Gold and Silver Corporation. They are publicly traded under the stock symbol SGSVF. That's a little difficult, but what I will do is I'll put that on our website. And he also trades on the TSX exchange. It's SBB. Bruce, let's talk about gold, man. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Nice to be on the show.
When does the plane take off?
Yeah. although he sounds great. He sounds better than any other guest we've had.
Yes, indeed.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about gold. Of course, is a safe haven. I just, off topic a little bit, gold's tracking the markets for the last couple of days. I'm really surprised because I hold some gold ETFs, and I was really surprised to see gold dropping while the market's dropping. Why would you suppose that is this time?
Look, at the end of the day, when people have liquidity events and margin calls, is gold stocks and ETFs are still stocks. Yeah. And, if somebody is over-levered and somebody's playing the commodities market, maybe they've got a bunch of calls that oil calls that expired. I wouldn't say worthless. Is it cost them to exercise? Sometimes people have to generate cash from any means that are available. And yeah. I think that if we look since coronavirus has started, gold has actually done a very good job.
Oh, unbelievable. No, I mean, you're absolutely right.
What it should. But it's those periods of when people get sold out and liquidity. Two things is that were very interesting in the gold market today and yesterday. One was, as you mentioned earlier in the show, Bank of America saying gold is going to $3,000. And it's really because the Fed can't print gold.
Well, that's right. Let's talk about that, because when we have so much stimulus and more stimulus coming out, there's only three things that a government can do when they're printing money like that. And look, it's called quantitative easing. Every country does it. The U.S. is the least dirty shirt in the hamper. We're better at it than anybody else. And basically how it works is this. Well, here's the three options.
Yeah.
You can raise taxes to deal with that money, which will probably happen in some form. The government stops spending money, which is never going to happen. Or they can monetize that debt. And by doing so, they print their own money. They take money out of their own monopoly bank.
Right.
And they buy their own U.S. Treasury bonds, T-bills, T-notes.
My sister used to do.
Drive up the price.
Yes.
Which makes them money. And that's how the Fed is funded, by the way. Okay?
Yep.
It's a total cheat.
Yes.
It's a manipulation, but every country does it to some extent, and it creates economic activity. But to your point, Bruce, either we're going to have hyperinflation, we're going to have a dollar that's worth nothing, or again, in the elasticity of the economy, you're going to see precious metals go through the roof. And I think, you ever try to buy a gold coin right now, Bruce? It's impossible. Bruce, stay right there. I'm going to keep you over.
How much for a Krugerrand right now?
Well, 1,600 and whatever the 1675, right? Whatever the ounce is. Yeah, wow. That's exactly right. But it's interesting because he's absolutely right. And that has to do, a lot of it has to do with what's going on with the debt market. So Bruce McLeod, our guest, I'm going to keep him all the way to I'm going to keep him a whole other segment here since I was a little mouthy on the other stuff. But I want to talk about Sabina, but I also want to talk about the gold market because it's really an interesting sort of play as to what's going on here. And I think Bruce is the guy to tell us about it. Hey, Bruce McLeod is our resident gold expert. He didn't know that, but we just hired him at the low price of free to talk about gold. He is the president and CEO of a company called Sabina Gold and Silver. Hey, Bruce, before we get to Sabina Gold and Silver, which, by the way, is publicly traded, I'll put those symbols up at bigbizshow.com. We'll tweet them out to our 40,000, but SGSVF in the U.S. and SBB up in Canada. What's interesting is physical gold versus paper gold. Gold ETFs have had record performance, as you just mentioned, the last couple of weeks. What about physical gold? Is there going to be a bifurcation there, or is it one? A rising tide floats all boats in that case?
I think there already is a bifurcation. We've seen huge premiums on buying physical. If you go to most of the coin dealers and people who actually sell bullion, delivery is a question mark to when you can actually take physical delivery. There's a lot of speculation that a lot of these alternative financial instruments, these paper instruments that are supposed to mimic or proxy gold, that maybe the gold behind them isn't there.
So maybe it's fiat currency, just like our dollar is potentially. Now, what would that do to the gold market? It would drive physical gold up, and it would drive the ETFs down, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I think there'd be a bifurcation even more so than what we're seeing right now. What we're seeing is, I wouldn't call it necessarily a bifurcation. I'd say the largest premium we've ever seen on physical gold delivery.
So let me ask you this. When you think in terms of what happened to oil yesterday with the expiration of oil contracts and there's enough oil above ground where nobody actually needs to deliver or wants anybody to deliver any oil. Why are we not seeing that gold go to 2,500 today? because of it really is a remarkable sort of situation with physical gold, as you mentioned. Why the lag time? Is it because it trades like stocks, or is it because it's that delivery issue? What do you suppose that is?
Well, I think part of it is in periods of illiquidity that people sometimes are forced to sell, and that normally pays catch up. That only goes so long. If we look at another very interesting statistic, is in February, Putin said that Russia was going to stop buying physical gold, and lo and behold, in the month of March, they bought another 9.9 tons.
Just a couple Olympic swimming pools.
Wow. Hey, Bruce, let's talk about Sabina. Let's give a chance to talk about your company. You've been in the mining business for 30 years in every aspect. Talk about Canadian mining. Talk about boomtown. California was a boomtown back in the 1800s. Canada was a big gold boomtown in the last 10, 15 years. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, Sabina is a very interesting asset, or we have a very interesting asset called the Back River Gold Belt. We own 100% of it. It's an 80-kilometer long, very prospective gold belt in Nunavut. We acquired it in 2009, at which point there was a little over 2 million ounces in resources.
2 million ounces.
2 million, and we have grown that now to over 7.2 million ounces at 6 grams. That 6-gram open pits are the highest grade open pit gold mines in the world.
Wow. So you're sitting on a gold mine, if I'm not mistaken.
Good one, Bob.
So talk about the food chain. I know there's gold royalty companies, there's gold exploration companies, there's gold mining company. Where do you guys fit in that food chain, and explain why you're in the position that you're in right now?
Well, if we look at the food chain, the top of the food chain are really the large royalty companies, the Wheaton Precious, the large multi-mine asset producers, the Barricks, Newmonts of the world. The bottom of the food chain are the conceptual explorationists that have a concept but haven't actually developed a resource or made a find. As you go through that exploration towards the top of the food chain, it's developing, finding a deposit, developing a resource, putting your economics together on that, permitting your project and gaining social license, and then you become the developers. Where we sit today, we're actually moving towards construction. So the next leap for us is from developer to producer. And so we've spent over $300 million in advancing Back River since our acquisition to bring it to where it is today, and that's a very economic gold project.
Hey, Bruce, before I let you out of here, I got about a minute left. Okay. How's it been for you during COVID as a gold mining company?
Look, everybody has had challenges. We work in an isolated location where you've got everybody in camp, and really what our worry is that you end up being that cruise ship. You end up being in isolation. It spreads through like wildfire. So what we did is like many others, we stopped the physical activity on the ground. But what we are doing is continuing with a lot of the paper studies, the optimization studies, the engineering that we can do working remotely and still adding value to the project and being ready that when things do change and normalize, I'm not sure what normal is going to look like, that we'll be able to take advantage and move this project forward and continue to show that we've got one of the best gold assets in the class and in the world.
Listen, man, we need to have you back. I love your knowledge on gold. Also, every gold mine is a silver mine, from what I understand. And again, the name of the company is Sabina Gold and Silver.